Hey students, it's Miss Moreau. Hi. Alright, today we are going to do 8-3, part 1, which is special right triangles. And today is all about the 30, 60, 90 special right triangles. Alright, so go ahead and write that in. Alright, now you're going to take your glue in, and we're just going to glue it in right underneath that. So we kind of have our big idea here, and then we have 3 examples that we're going to work on today. And then there is a practice. As we work today, we're going to use 3 colored pencils. I have yellow, orange, and green. So if you want to grab the same ones, you can, or you can grab other ones. Okay, so go ahead and get that glued in. Alright, if yours is not glued in yet and you're not ready to write, go ahead and hit that pause button. Finish getting that glued in. And then you can go ahead and resume. Alright, so a couple of things that we know about this one is when you have a 90-degree angle, we have also 2 other angles. Remember, they all have to add up to 180. So if I have 90 degrees and I have another angle, this angle is small. This is going to be a 30-degree angle. In order to make that 180, if I do 180 minus 90 minus 60, we get, oh, whoops, I did that backwards. 180 minus 90 minus 30, we're always going to get 60. There we go. Got it. Okay, so we know that one part of our triangle is always going to be that 30 degrees, and then one part would be 60 degrees if we have that 30 degrees, or vice versa. If we have 60, then we have 30, 30, 60. Now let's create special ideas. Remember, we have our leg and our leg, and then across from the 90-degree angle is our hypotenuse. All right. So a couple things that we know about that. We're going to start with the leg that's across from the 30-degree angle. Because this is my smallest angle, I know that this will be my smallest side. So let's call that X. Okay, and that's our smallest side. Then, because of our Pythagorean theorem and with our 30, 60, 90 triangle, what ends up happening is we end up getting these kind of cool ratios. They're not really that cool, but just pretend. All right, this hypotenuse ends up being 2x. So whatever x is, this is 2 times that x. And then our last leg here ends up being x times the square root of 3. Okay, and again, this is based on that Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And it's just the way that it works with our 30, 60, 90, since we have, this is 30 is 30. And 60 is double 30, so 30 times 2 is 60. But then 30 times 3 is 90. So it creates this kind of cool, again, not really that cool, ratio. All right? So here we go with our 3 examples. All right, our first idea and our first process here is going to be to label the sides. Okay, so the x is always located across from the 30. So here's my 30. So I'm going to go across from that. So that's my x. My hypotenuse across from the 90 is always 2x. And then our longer leg is x square root of 3. Okay. So our given length is x. So our step number 2, we're going to think that x equals 6. And our goal here is to find all three sides. Okay. So to find the hypotenuse, hypotenuse is 2 times x. So we just take our x, 6, 2 times 6 is 12. And then our last step is for the leg. We have x times the square root of 3. Oh, sorry, this is the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is 2 times x, is what we said there. All right, then our other leg, which is my green part here, is x square root of 3. And we said x is 6, so that'd be 6 times the square root of 3, running a little out of space. And we're going to throw that into our Desmos calculator. Again, I'd recommend that one versus your calculator on your phone until you get more used to it. All right, so we're going to do 6 square root of 3. And we get 10.39230485. It ends up being that irrational number. It goes on and on forever and ever and ever. So we're going to round it to the nearest hundredth, 2 decimal places. So 39, or round to 40. Well, this 2 tells me to keep it at 39. So 10 and 39 hundredths. Okay, so our three lengths here we have is 6, 12, and 10.39. And we can color code those so that we know which one is which, as well as remember our hypotenuse should always be the longest side. Our hypotenuse is at 2x, which is 12, and that is bigger than 6 and 10.39. All right, number 2. Similar idea, but a little different now. So our first step is to label our sides. See what we're given. Okay, so we have 60 degrees, which means that this one is 30 degrees. So I always like to start with my shortest leg. So as I look at my 2 legs, the shortest leg is across from the 30 degrees. That one's our x. Our hypotenuse is across from 90. That one's 2x. And then our longer leg is across from 60, and that is our x square root of 3. All right, so our second equation is to write and solve, second step, my brain today, is to write and solve an equation. To find x. So I know that x square root of 3 is equal to 2. So if I want to solve that, I would just have to undo this multiplying by square root of 3. And to undo a multiplying by square root of 3, to get just x, I would divide by the square root of 3. And if we do it on one side, we do it on the other. Today we're just going to work with decimals. We're going to get irrational numbers. So x is equal to 2 divided by the square root of 3, 1.15 or 15 hundredths. This 4 tells me to stay at the 15, so 1 and 15 hundredths. All right, so now that's our x. And then step 3 is to find the hypotenuse. Which is 2 times x. And now that we have x, we know that this will be 2 times 1 and 15 hundredths. And we get about 2.3. Now since we rounded that 1.15, remember 2.3 is rounded 2 3/10, so it might not be exact, but we're getting pretty close. All right, so our 3 sides, we have our x is 1 and 15 hundredths. If we go least to greatest, our next number would be 2, our side, our leg. And then our hypotenuse should be the biggest side, which is 2.3. Okay, if you want a color code, you can. All right, your practice today, we have one more problem, but your practice today will ask you just for one of the parts. So you have to kind of decide what are you given and then find that other missing part because of that. And you'll show your work either by multiplying or dividing, things like that. All right, so on this first step here, again, we're going to label our parts, label our sides. This time we're given our 30 degrees, so we could label this one as 60 degrees because we know this is 90. So across from 30 is our shortest leg, which is x. Across from 60 is our longer leg. I did this backwards in my brain. My brain's struggling. X square root of 3. And then we have our hypotenuse, which is across from the 90. And that would be 2x. So step number 2 is now to find x. If we don't know x, that's our second step, is to find x. So 2x, and then I'm trying to find x. So to go from 2x to x, I'm going to take 11, and I need to undo multiplying by 2. So to undo multiply, I can just write that as divide by 2. Right, 11 divided by 2, and we get 5.5. So then our last step is to find x times the square root of 3. And we already know what x is, so we're going to take 5.5, and we're going to multiply it by the square root of 3. We get 9 and 52 hundredths. Again, we're going to have to round, so that 6 tells me to round up to 53 hundredths. 9 and 53 hundredths. All right, so our 3 sides, we have our 5 and 5/10, or 5 1/2, 9 and 53 hundredths, close to 9 1/2, a little bit bigger, and 11. And again, it should go smallest to biggest, so x is 5.5, that's what we found. Our other leg is 9 and 53 hundredths. And our hypotenuse, our biggest side, is 11. And that ends up being the biggest side, so we're good to go. All right, that's it. So there is a practice today. The work is going to look a lot more like this last problem where we're dividing and multiplying. Here you can write this out like this, but in Schoology it will say like 2, and then you'll write this divide by square root of 3. rather than kind of doing it in this equation format. We'll just write it out in that simple format. All right, you got it.